Hey, all you ghouls and goblins. I was going to say you Gabagools, but, in the Halloween spirit, we're going to start out the show like that. I'm your host, Jeff. Welcome back to the episode 36 of the Gabagools podcast. I'm with Dan here. How we feeling?
That was frightening. That was a
Yeah,
frightening start.
delivery was delivery was poor. It was actually
Ooh.
in my head it was going to be a lot better, but yeah, have
That
to.
was good.
Yeah, we limit the edits too because it's all natural,
Oh
Put a
yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
moisturizer in and, kind of let it
yeah.
sit for a little bit, marinate, and you're good to go.
Oh yeah, pimples and all.
Yeah, no blemishes on this podcast. Adult acne. Might as well get some adult braces too going.
No, we're doing well over here. Got the day off today. A couple of these last 2 days. I mean, my goodness, we are, day before Halloween it was 80 yesterday, 75, 77 today. I mean,
Yep,
people
still
say global warming isn't real, but I tell you to look outside when we're 2 days from November and it's 80 degrees outside. So
yeah.
beautiful day though.
It is. Yeah, we went on a little walk and we went to the park earlier today, so that was cool. And not just cool because of the weather, but super windy the last 2 days. We have our windows open, and I swear, like the whole house sounds like it's going to come blowing over with how windy it is today.
Yeah, it's been like that the last couple of days. I don't know why. I'm not. I know people think of me as a meteorologist with the weather updates, but you know, there must have been a strong Gulf Stream of wind coming through the last couple of days. That's my 2 cents for you.
Yeah, Daniel Skilling over here. Um, oh, geez, got to get back on. We got to keep with the sports here because we get too off track. Everyone says keep. We got to keep politics out of sports or whatever. We should just keep weather out of sports.
We got to stick to one thing and one thing only.
Just like we're skating. When we skate in our figure skating, we skate the one song and one song only. But
One
all
song.
right, let's jump in. We want to touch on the World Series first, and then we'll touch on Week 8.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Let's do
right.
it.
So, kind of, I don't know if it's much of a surprise. I mean, I know a lot of the Yankee fans probably thought they had a better shot, but with how inconsistent their hitting has been pretty much the entire season, I mean, they've been good enough to make the World Series, but like their hitting has been kind of abysmal. Um, they're up 3-1. They are the Dodgers that is they are up 3-1 in the series. Yankees came back and won yesterday. Kind of Volpe hit that grand slam. Did you happen to see that Mookie Betts catch where the fan took it out of his glove?
Um, Geez, was I falling asleep during that part? I don't know. The last game was the most exciting for me because I've been rooting for the Yankees to win this series, so I should have seen it. What happened again?
So there was two fans in the right field bleachers, like just your typical gabagool looking Yankee fan with their hat backwards, and the guy. So Mookie like robbed a home run, and his glove was like behind the wall, and this fan like grabbed onto his glove and like kept trying to like rip the ball out of his thing. So those two fans got ejected from the game and they're banned. I don't know if they had tickets to tonight's game too, but they got banned, which rightfully so. But just typical, creature behavior in the right field.
I'm sure that's one of the nicer things that's happened in the stands at the Yankee games, but that's what happens when you're an idiot, right?
Yeah, I mean it's cool. I mean you
Yeah,
got your 15 minutes of fame.
yeah. But
Um,
that
go ahead.
this series has been for me a little interesting. Maybe you saw the Yankees more than I did this year. I thought their offense would be more consistent in this series. They broke out obviously in Game 4, and that's why they won. But it's been, I mean, even if you go back to the Cleveland series, I mean, they were scoring only a couple of runs in those games, and
Yeah,
their pitching was good. I felt if you go back to Game 1, um, your buddy Alex Rodriguez after the game, I think, said that uh, they should have kept Cole out there a little bit longer. I think he was at 88 pitches.
yeah,
Try to finish the seventh at least. I am a proponent of when you've got your horses, you let them ride, especially when it's not only the postseason but the World Series. And I don't want to say the wheels started to fall off once they took Cole out of the game, but because obviously yeah, that was the Freeman walk off granny in Game One. But for me, this series really changed after Game One. It felt like the Yankees. I mean, the Dodgers were winning that game 2-0, 2-1 or whatever, and then I think, or they 1-0 or something. And then Stanton comes up and hits the homer, and they go up in the sixth or seventh, and you're
That's
thinking,
right.
holy cow, right? And then it kind of looked like, okay, the Yankees might actually win this game. Once Stanton hit that homer, in my eyes, it felt like the Yankees had to really win that game. Of course, they find a way to lose it. I love Freddie. He's one of my favorite players in the league, and what a
Yeah.
run he's been on. But I felt like the Yankees kind of gave Game One away, maybe, and now
Yep.
you sit and they came alive last game, but you're still down 3-1. So
Yeah, and before I entertain the whole your buddy Alex Rodriguez comment too, we're gonna have to unpack that can of worms. But yeah, overall, I think you hit it on the head with that. I think a lot of momentum though is like this is a huge game. You got Garrett Cole tonight going against Jack Flaherty, and pretty much if you win tonight with Cole, you're I mean yes you're going out west but like you're putting yourself in a chance to win now, and the momentum definitely swung. I mean the Dodgers were right there pretty much that entire game, and then it kind of got out of hand later in the game. But like I said, Volpe hit the grand slam last night too, but like you said, Game 1 I thought the Yankees had it too. Stanton has been one of the hottest hitters outside of Juan Soto in this whole postseason. It's been pretty insane to watch. Every time I feel like the Yankees are scoring, it's because of him. But man, is he slow! Holy crap! And I think it was Game 3. Literally, he couldn't score from second base. He was like running through quicksand or running through sand in general. And you compare it to Freddie Freeman, who literally booked it down the line with a hurt ankle
with
and
the
still
bad
made
ankle, yeah.
the play.
And I wonder if that's just because they've told Stanton, don't run 100%. Even I mean, I know it's the World
Is it
Series.
is
Yeah,
it Tony La Russa's telling him that?
I don't know who's telling him that, but
Because
Stanton's been one of their best hitters, and the guy's built like nobody else. He said he lost weight, and when you look at him,
he does it good though. Like
oh yeah, I mean the guy's unbelievable, but they need his bat in there. I would have liked. I mean, I thought he was a little bit quicker too. When I saw him trying to score on that and he gets thrown out, I'm like, my goodness, dude, you're carrying a freaking piano back there.
yeah, he really is. And you know what? Bringing up like a slumping hitter is Aaron Judge. Just in the postseason, it might be one of the historic worst best hitters in the league. I think he's like a combined like 1 for 19 with like a bunch of strikeouts in the World Series, which you can't win. If he gets hot though, it's over. Like you can chalk it up. But like I said, momentum's kind of going that way towards the Yankees. You got Cole going tonight. If you have a Game 6, you got Rodon, a pissed off Rodon too, because he pitched well. Outside of those 4 runs that he gave up, he pitched really well. So we'll see. But I did have to laugh when you said, told him not to run as hard. My Tony La Russa comment was because when Eloy,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
it was like La Russa's last year. The training staff allegedly told Eloy don't run so hard to first base so he doesn't get hurt, which whatever, doesn't matter. Both are gone, so it is what it is. But yeah, Freddie Freeman, 6 home runs, 6 World Series games. If he hits another one, he actually ties the record. I did pull that stat up. George Springer actually is leading the World Series total in history with 5 home runs in 34 plate appearances. I'm going to give you this. The guy who's tied for it with second was on the 2009 World Series champion. If you remember who it is, Philadelphia Phillies. Think about who it is. Infielder.
uh, I was gonna say it's got to be Ryan Howard, right?
Nope. Different infielder. Had a
Uh,
controversial slide with the dot.
Utley, yeah, Utley,
Yep.
yeah.
There it is.
Oh,
Yep. Chase Utley. I was surprised by that. I forgot how big of a run he had in that World Series too. Because did Howard win the MVP? We can fact check it if you don't have it off the top of your head. But
he had some monster years with Philly back in the day, and so did J Roll. That those guys up the middle,
yeah.
and then you had Ryan Howard hitting his 50s to 60 tanks for those couple of years. I mean, that team was that team was ridiculous. But um,
Oh, they lost in 2009 in the World Series.
Philly,
Yeah, I forgot. Speaking of these stupid Yankees, they were the
oh
ones that.
Jesus,
Yeah, and I want to say one thing, and I know maybe if once I post it to TikTok too, maybe we'll get a little bit more heat on it. But I think Derek Jeter is overrated.
Whoa, whoa, that's a hot take. I mean, when you say overrated, when you are you talking about the statistics overall, more or less the offensive?
Yeah,
Then, yeah,
100%.
no offense to DJ, and you know what? He was great in the postseason, right? I mean, and I think he had great numbers in the
Yeah.
postseason, but you know, yeah, there's guys. I mean, the guy that's on the panel with him. That was one of my guys growing up. I mean, look at his numbers. You could say what you
Which
want
one?
about the
Which
juice.
one? Poppy or
Not no offense to David, but no, it was I'm not. I'm talking about A-Rod. I mean,
my buddy apparently.
your buddy. He was one of my buddies growing up. I'll admit that. I don't care. I mean, God, he was one of the best freaking players on the planet, and you could
Yeah.
see that from the stats. If he didn't have to miss year and a half to 2 years because of that second PED thing right before he retired, he'd be in the 700 club. And you could say what you want about it being taint, but he'd be the fourth player in the 700 club. Pujols couldn't get to, or no, did Pujols get to seven? He might have actually.
Let me pull it up for you. I think
Wait a
he
minute.
broke the record or
He
not
might
broke.
have actually. He might have got there.
He's 703.
He did get there, okay, but A Rod would have got there, and I mean, and again, huge Pujols fan too. I mean, he
Oh yeah.
was he was a Cub killer for
Yeah.
those
He
10
really
years or
was.
whatever at St. Louis. He just killed everybody. When you look at his tenure in St. Louis, might be the best of any player in the history of the sport. It's unbelievable what he did, but
Yeah. Did you see that the Sox moving away from the Yankees and Dodgers? Did you see the Sox actually hired Will Venable as their
Will
manager?
Venable, how about
Yeah.
that, huh?
You remember him, right?
Yeah, he played. He where was he? Was
He was
he
a
even with
coach
you
for the
guys
Cubs
or
for a little bit.
he might have what like a bench coach or like a
Yeah, he was a bench coach for like a little bit, but he was recently just with the Texas Rangers.
so what are you guys doing with Grady then? You guys getting rid of him? Is he going back to whatever role he
Probably.
had before the interim or
We'll see. We'll see what if he made a good impression on makes a good impression on him. But we'll see. Venable. I mean, he's highly sought after too. He had a couple interviews with a couple other teams that needed a manager, and I know up until last year he had the offer for the Mets too, and he turned it down, which I think is hilarious that he turned it down and is going back to or he's going to the White Sox. Um, fresh blood outside of the organization, not a former Sox player, not a Kansas City Royals player. So I don't really have a whole lot on him. I mean, the team's going to be in rough shape. I mean, they're still going to be bad by all means, but maybe he can develop a couple of these guys a little bit better. So we'll see.
yeah, and you know he's I guess a bit of an outsider coming in, but yeah, that's the one thing you got to look at is you guys for the next couple of years you can't expect a whole lot. You gotta this is obviously another rebuild, so you're gonna have to give this guy a few years. He's never managed before, right? So this is gonna be his first gig on a team that's not supposed to be very good. You're gonna have to give him. Do you know how many year deal it is?
No idea. My guess is usually 3 to 4. I mean, that's usually what they give him. But I mean, just going back, I mean, he had a 9 year MLB career. He was a Cubs coach, both first and third baseman, 2018 to 2020. So obviously worked under Joe Madden. Then he went to the Red Sox for 21 and 22. Went under Alex Cora, and then he was a Rangers associate manager, whatever that means, for the last year under Bruce Bochy. So I like that. I mean, he learned from three of the best managers either in the game today or in general. So optimistic. I mean, like I said, product's not on the field. Can't be too overly zealous on it, but
Yeah, no, I mean we'll see. We'll see what the team looks like next year. You guys got rid of some of the people that they said might have not been the best in the
yeah,
clubhouse or a little cookie or whatever. So if you flushed most of that or almost all of that out, you get some
yeah,
new coaches in there. You get some new. I don't. I can't think of the world like the new vibe, the new feel. For the team. You guys are going to be better this next year, right? You can't be as bad as 121 losses. You're going to be
yeah.
better. But yeah, the next year or two, you guys have some people in the farm system, so you'll call
Yeah.
them up and we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. We'll see. We'll touch more in the offseason on it. But jumping into the bell of the ball, as we say here, week 8 recap for the NFL. Unfortunately, no Daniel fastest 2 minutes today. So we'll save it for next week.
Next week.
But real quickly, I mean, not real quickly, we'll just touch on the games. So jumping in here with the Thursday night game. It was the Rams at Minnesota, which was actually a very fun game to watch.
Hmm.
Um, these I said before I hate those Thursday games, but that was a fun one. The Rams, Matt Stafford had his full arsenal. Kyron Williams looked good. Puka was on a snap count. Didn't start him in fantasy. Dude goes off for like 100 and something, only playing like 50% of his snaps or 60, something like that, which is still impressive. And then Cooper Cup got a touchdown. So good to see, but you might think, oh, well, what was the score? Well, it's 30-20. Sam Darnold did everything he could. There was a really big controversial face mask at the end of that game that, a lot of people thought that Vegas kind of let that one go because of how many people bet on Minnesota with the last couple minutes of that game. So, but yeah, Minnesota, another loss gives the Packers and company kind of more room to work.
Yeah. You know what? I was just going to say what you said to start. Stafford kind of had all of his toys back at his disposal, right? With Cup and Puka being back out there. Like you said, Puka with the big game. I think he was just over 100 yards. Cup caught the TD. Your buddy Kyron Williams, just week after week, tends to just churn out about 100 yards or more. So he
Yeah.
just keeps doing his thing. And yeah, Minnesota now, I think that's back to back losses for them,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. So the schedule's getting a little bit trickier now. And I know you mentioned Green Bay, but Detroit, I think they're 6-1.
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, Green Bay, yes, they look
Tough.
good, but yeah, that was a good game to start the week.
Yep. Jumping in, we had Philadelphia at Cincinnati. The Eagles really just destroyed from start to finish. They destroyed the Bengals. It really wasn't close. 37-17. Jalen Hurts, I think, had like 3 touchdowns, 280 or 236 yards passing. Barkley added on the ground with 108, and Devonta Smith had a pretty good day as well. Um, Bengals, I think they're 3-5 now.
3-5, yeah.
They did post game with what's Burrow, and they did say like, what's it going to take to win? And he said, well, you got to win 7 of the next 9, which is doable, and it is. If you look at their schedule, it is doable, but they just need to win because if not, we can. But once again, you saw T Higgins not on the field, and they've kind of fallen apart. So it's kind of gonna be a storyline for the end of the year.
It's
Once
funny you said that they just need to win because, yeah, so does every other team. Cincinnati's
yeah,
defense is just, I don't know what to say. That defense is getting torn up, it seems, week after week. And honestly, offensively, Cincinnati, I mean, they're supposed to have this great offense with Burrow and Chase and like you said, Higgins and all that. They're not getting a lot. I looked at some of these games this week. I don't know if that was one of them, but there were a couple of games this week where they had almost nothing on the run on the ground. Some of these teams got like 30, 40, 50 rushing yards for the whole game. You're asking your quarterback to do too much. I don't know. I forget how many the Bengals had on the ground, but they're asking. I feel like they're asking Burrow to do a lot, especially with that defense giving up 37. Uh, you can't give up 37 points. I don't care how good you are. You can't give up 37 points.
no, exactly. Not many teams will win at that point when you give up that many points. That is what it is. Unfortunately, we might not see Burrow in the playoffs, but you never know. Weird things have happened.
This is
Moving
true.
into the other AFC North game, Baltimore at Cleveland. Cleveland came up with the upset, 29-24. Uh, Interesting. It's funny to see how good the Ravens are, which they just traded for Deontay Johnson yesterday. If you saw that,
I think I did see that. I mean, Jameis, right? I mean,
yeah,
first of all, you got to give him some flowers. He looked great in that game. And how about just Cleveland? How kind of not great they've looked with Deshaun the whole year, and then you get Jameis in there against the Baltimore team that the first few weeks of the season they looked a little off. Then they started feeding Henry, King Henry, that is. and look, they just took off. And then you lose a game. It seemed like Baltimore had to be fairly heavy favorites in that game with, Jameis starting the game, right? And this is the NFL, right? This is sports. Crazy things happen. That was a game where you would ask me before the game. I would have said Baltimore wins that game by 20. So
You know what? Jameis Winston, too, is just fun to watch. Like, I still remember, I think he had a 30-30 season a couple years ago with Tampa Bay where he had 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions.
yeah,
Incredible. Just incredible. And he's so hilarious, too. I love his little pregame speeches. Makes me laugh every time. But yeah, good for Cleveland. I mean, watch them rattle off some wins, too, now that they got Jameis in there. But yeah, Baltimore, tough game. I think Justin Tucker missed a couple kicks in that game, too. So he's been kind of off this year.
which is rare because he's been just
So
about
good for
the
so
gold
long.
standard for yeah.
Yeah. And then moving into the next game, Tennessee at Detroit.
Oh
Detroit
my
putting up
goodness,
a 50 burger here, 52-14. Uh,
holy snake!
I mean, not really a surprise there. It was just a scoring fest is the best way to put it. Their offense is really good. Their defense is pretty good. Tennessee is really bad. They're very bad. Outside of Tony Pollard, they don't have a whole lot going for them. I mean, Calvin Ridley had a nice day finally for fantasy. I think his last two games he's had pretty nice days, but I mean, when you give up 52 points, I mean, nobody thought the Tennessee Titans were going to be good anyway. But I mean, they have Mason Rudolph starting. Will Levis is still hurt. Probably going to end up drafting another QB in the next year and a half. We'll see what happens. So
Yeah, nothing really to say on this one. Tennessee, we knew they weren't going to be good, and yeah, 52 to
Gibbs
14.
Gibbs is electric.
Oh my
Montgomery,
God, is he good?
Sonic and Knuckles. That's the nicknames that they want to go by. So I don't know who's who, but it's crazy to think about if one of those guys was just a standalone back, how good they would be for fantasy too. I mean, they're awesome for fantasy and they're equally.
Yeah,
Um, but my goodness, if one of them had just a chance, like if Gibbs had 30 touches a game like that,
sooner than later, that's probably gonna happen.
they're
But
signed. I mean, they're signed long term, both of them. They just extended Montgomery like another 3 years. So we'll see.
we'll see.
Moving into Arizona at Miami, the return of Tua. Arizona won 28-27. That
Yeah.
was a pretty back and forth game all game. Devin A Chain or A Chain, yeah, A Chain looked really good once again to a return, and he kind of went off. I think he had 8 or 9 receptions. Um, Good to see there. Good to see Tua was healthy. There was one touching point I would like to say too is like when Tua had an open lane to run, he did, and he made sure to slide, and like the whole crowd went nuts when he actually slid and didn't get hurt. So, but yeah,
Hey,
Kyler got the win too.
thank God Tua learned how to slide after I don't know however many concussions. But yeah,
Yep.
Kyler had a good game. McBride and Harrison both, I think, were over the 100-yard mark receiving. So good weeks for those two. Arizona's that team week to week. They can look kind of good. They can look kind of not so good. They narrowly beat Miami when Tua was back. He was out the last few weeks. So
Yeah.
good win for him. But yeah,
Yep. And then moving into the Jets
oh,
at New England.
I could tell we were going into that game with the huge sigh.
Yeah, 2 and
It's over.
6.
It's
Yeah,
over.
it's over. 2 and 6.
Same record as the Patriots.
Same record as the Patriots. Total, the rest of the AFC East teams have the same amount of wins as the Buffalo Bills. You fire your coach, didn't work. You trade for Devontae Adams, didn't work. The team just looks unmotivated, uninspired. I don't know what the hell to do at this point. I mean, they need a new coach in there. Probably need to have the discussion about Rodgers. I mean, he's so banged up, and you see it. One of the New England Patriot players on defense was kind of trolling the Jets, basically saying about how they felt bad for Rodgers because he's out there like trying to move and he just can't because he's so hurt. But he knows he needs to be out there. Yeah, I mean, doesn't look good. There's obviously always that chance at a wild card just because football is weird. I'm kind of speechless at this point. There's nothing more that they can do. I mean, they have a chance tomorrow against the Texans just because they do have Stephon Diggs out, so and Collins is still not back. So you're pretty much limiting. You know, you could put Sauce Gardner on Tank Dell, but Sauce has not looked himself this year either, which is kind of depressing. The defense kind of lost its luster. I mean, I don't know if it's because
Yeah.
Rob Sala left, so now Jeff Ulrich is kind of stretched too thin. But yeah, it's not good. Not good.
Yeah, I didn't see much of that game, but I looked at the stats, and you look at the stats, and it's a very even game. It's a very even score. You almost think the Jets probably should have won the game with some of the stats, but you dive into it, and I think that maybe the most glaring thing maybe is the third down conversions. They were only 4 of 10 on third down, so
Yeah.
not that New England was that much better. I think they were 7 of 15. So I mean, a
Yeah.
little closer to 50%, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do, right? I mean, it's you're supposed to have the guy. He hasn't looked great, and just like you said, I think the bigger issue is the defense. Maybe they're unmotivated. Maybe guys are banged up, but you're giving up 25 points to a team that has virtually no one to throw to in New England, and a quarterback who just made his second start. So
Yeah, and Drake May got hurt too. That was a big thing. But I mean, it came
yeah,
down.
right.
The Jets were up with like a minute or so left, and Brissett drove at 80 yards, and they scored with 30 seconds left. And Stevenson had a pretty big game. So, um, I mean, pass rush isn't there. The defense is getting shredded essentially. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm not really optimistic, but I mean, they could beat the Texans. It's kind of funny because they were favored, I think, last week and they lost. But also a funnier stat is they did something like they're like the first team to lose without turning the ball over, scoring 20 or more points, and like limiting amount of yards or something from the opponent. They're like the first team to do that. I'm like, of course. Like, just we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We got the Texans come up ready to play. Hopefully you can get a sneak in a win there.
And I think that's in New Jersey, right, or wherever.
Probably.
I think you guys
I'd
are
have to
home.
check. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we'll see. We'll see
we'll
what
see.
happens. Moving
Yeah.
on, Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Atlanta won 31 to
Oh,
26. That game really wasn't as close as it seemed either. Atlanta was pretty dominant in that game. Kirk Cousins looks electric. Pretty much your comeback player of the year, in my opinion.
yeah, he looked really good. I think he had three. I think he had 4 touchdowns. He finally threw one to Bijan, which I've been waiting for because I got the Kirk Bijan combo, which I almost beat this guy. Will, if you're listening, uh, you got lucky this week, buddy. All right, you got lucky. But yeah, I mean, Atlanta is that Atlanta. Man, they can look really good, and then they can, Kirk, has his games where he's a little off or whatever, but they look good. Tampa Bay, though, man, they've had a couple tough weeks. They had to play, I think, Kansas City, if not last week, a couple weeks ago. They might have had Philly, and Philly might have beat them or somebody, and then they get Atlanta. They've had some tough games recently, and I don't know if they've won any of them, but I think they had Evans and Godwin both out, so
Yeah, that's
tough
a
to
big
do.
one.
This was another classic game of they just asked Baker to do too much. I think he threw the ball 50 times in this game, and it's still 31-26. So
Yeah, I mean Baker is honestly, if the Bucks make a deep run, you could arguably put him into a MVP conversation just based off of the season he has had, and
right,
given that two of his major targets are out now,
yeah,
Godwin for the season, and then Evans is at least out until week. I think they said 12. Um, you know, you have to give him his credit here for basically throwing to like Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer. And I forgot who their other guy is, but not a whole lot for them.
yeah. He's got nobody, but we'll see. Hopefully, their schedule gets a little easier because I know recently they've had to play some tough games.
Yeah, and that was a big one too. Yeah, they lost to the Chiefs. Oh no, they lost to the Ravens on Monday night, and then they turn around and face the Falcons. They got the Buccaneers on Monday night again. So we'll see. moving into the next game, Green Bay at Jacksonville, very close game. Jordan Love
Hmm.
got hurt again, hurt his groin this time, so that hurt me in fantasy. I lost by less than half a point. If you saw that, Dan, in our league, I ended up losing.
Oh,
But CD Lamb had a huge night. We'll talk about that later. But 30-27, Green Bay snuck out another win. Malik Willis did enough to, get them the W while he was out. And just same old Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence put him in a position to win. Christian Kirk got hurt for the season, broken collarbone. Brian Thomas is banged up, so not going to look much better for Trevor Lawrence the rest of this year.
Josh Jacobs. It was the Josh Jacobs show.
Yeah,
25 carries, 127 yards, and two TDs. Um, you mentioned Love getting hurt. I think they said it was just like something with the groin, so it shouldn't be
yeah,
that big of a deal. But yeah, he missed some time. And Jacksonville 2-6. They've looked better the last few weeks. They've at least been in some games. The first 2 weeks they weren't. They were losing. They didn't look great. Not that they're going to make the playoffs, but it would have been nice for Jacksonville to beat Green Bay and give us a little extra. We're going to get to the Bears game, and I don't know when we get there, but
we'll get there in a little bit.
Jesus
But
Christ.
moving into the next game, Indianapolis at Houston. Like I said, Stephon Diggs out for the season, ACL.
Yeah.
They barely got by. CJ Stroud has had some sophomore slump, to say the least. Granted, like I said, his wide receivers are banged up, and this just shows how bad Anthony Richardson is, where he's asking to tap out, and he's benched. They benched him for Flacco, which is hilarious. Good for Michael Pittman, though.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's had a few games this year where I felt like it's been a bit of a grind. They've found ways to win because they're a good team. But yeah, it's getting more difficult now with Diggs out for the season. Collins is out another, I don't know how many weeks. I don't think it's too many,
I
but
think he's back like next week.
yeah, he should be coming back soon, which obviously is huge for Stroud. And Stroud still had a solid game. He still threw two something. I think he had at least one or two through the air, so he looked solid, solid enough. But yeah, Anthony Richardson, I think he was like 10 of 32. I mean, I
He's
got to
just
be honest with you, Jeff. I think if you or I signed to their practice squad and played this week, I think you or I could have done better. I mean,
yeah.
at 10 of 32, my goodness. That guy couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat.
You're not lying on that one. He did not look good, which led to him getting benched for Joe Flacco. I mean, the team has a chance to win with Flacco. They did. Um,
They're four
maybe
and four right now. They're I mean, half the league is right around 500 right now. They're 4-4. They're still in a position
it's
where, depending on their schedule, they could win some games. They could make the playoffs this year.
yeah, and with Flacco, I think you put yourself in that situation where you could. So
Yeah,
with that
yeah.
defense, still you can keep it. And then, like I said, Michael Pittman. So we'll see what they come out with this the next week, though. Um, should be noted though, Josh Downs looks like the real deal. That was a guy that was going late in rookie drafts last season, and that's a guy I was tooting my horn about all because I had him in our league for like the longest time too, and I moved him, but the dude just his skill level is just out of this world, and it's showing now that he's actually getting peppered. Next game, New Orleans at the Chargers. Really boring game, but good for Justin Herbert. Kind of had his breakout game. The Chargers won 26-8. Lad McConkey or Laddie had 111 receiving yards and two touchdowns. Herbert threw for 279. Looked pretty good.
Lottie boy.
Laddie boy.
Yeah,
Kamara was the only bright spot you could say about New Orleans. They just look
yeah.
pitiful. Carr's supposed to be back this week.
I was gonna say I think Carr's supposed to be back. I mean, they had Jake Hayner throw 10 or 15 passes in there. So yeah, New Orleans is they're just kind of getting by. Another team similar to like Tennessee. They're just kind of getting by and doing what they can.
It's so funny because the start of the season they looked like unstoppable, and Carr gets hurt, and then the fall off is just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening when Carr comes back. Next one, Buffalo at Seattle. This is a fun afternoon game. And when I mean fun, it was good for the Bills. They won 31-10. Allen threw for 283 and some change. James Cook had a huge game. He had 111 on the ground. I think he had two or three touchdowns too. I think it was two. you know, Bills are looking a lot better than I expected. So
Yeah, Buffalo. I saw before that game ended. I mean, that was a bit of a beatdown before Seattle scored a touchdown. I think later in that game or whatever.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah, Buffalo looked great. I expected that to be a better game. I
it could have
think
been
that
too.
game was. I think that game was in Seattle. I'm not 100% sure
It
on
was,
that.
it was, and it was funny because there was multiple times where they had the ball on the goal line and they couldn't do anything with it. They turned it over. There was one, Gino had the ball snapped like 3 feet over his head,
Oh
and
Jesus.
Ken Walker had to go back and grab it and like run it back. But it was funny because I have Walker in a fantasy league, and he ended up losing. Like, so he got the ball, took it like it was like a 23-yard loss, but he brought it back like 17 yards. But they actually gave him minus yards on it because of the fumble. I'm like, oh, of course.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, they had quite a few just hiccups, but um, I think yeah, DK was out too, so no one. I mean, you had JSN, but we'll see.
Sure.
Now, just another trash game, I guess I could say. But Bo Nix looked good. Carolina at Denver, 28-14. Denver's just winning games.
Denver is. Where do I have Denver on my list? What are they? 5-3 now. 5-3. I mean, they were supposed to win this game. Everyone's supposed to beat the Panthers, but you're right. They are finding ways to win games. I don't think people had them at 5-3 through their first eight. And Bo Nix actually looked solid in this game. Again, I know it's
He's
against
looked
Carolina,
really
but
good. No, he's looked really good. Don't give it. You still have to. I mean, bad teams. You still have to look good against them. And yeah,
right.
you're right. I don't know if it's the Sean Payton effect or Bo Nix. I mean, you were high on him in the offseason too. Before even the draft process.
Yeah, I thought he could be all right, and I like the situation going there with Peyton. I didn't love his receiving core, but yeah, maybe it's the Peyton effect. Maybe he's a smart guy. Who the hell knows? But yeah, he looked good.
Yep. Too bad he plays in a division with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, so it's tough. Moving into that game now,
Yeah.
Kansas City, you know, overall got off the hook with this one. Minshew fumbled the ball multiple times when they had a chance. They won 27-20. Just shows how good Patrick Mahomes is in general that they can, and that defense too. Let's not discount that defense being not one of the top two or three in the league.
That defense has definitely been carrying this team all year. The offense has not been uh, what we've been, accustomed to the last few years with Mahomes and Andy Reid. I mean, they just keep finding ways to win. That's the team this year. I mean, there are some teams that have been, been able to find some ways to win. I feel like Houston's been one of those teams too. But yeah, Kansas City, man. I mean, I keep waiting for them to lose a game. And, I see that they're playing the Raiders this week, and I'm like, all right, Kansas City should win that game big. And you see that the Raiders had a chance. They could have
Really
won that
did.
game. I
Yeah.
mean, it's yeah, Casey's a good team, don't get me wrong, but there's been more than a few games that they could have and potentially should have lost. So good for them, but we'll
Yep.
see.
Yep. Moving on, Chicago at Washington. Washington 18, Chicago 15. Obviously we're touching on it on a Wednesday, but everybody, it's fresh in their mind still, at least in Chicago. The nice little tip drill for a Hail Mary game winner for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Uh, I don't want to have this. I don't want to say I took a part in it because I didn't add any karma to him. But I had a couple of friends give me shit about the Jets losing to the Patriots earlier in the day. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is, you know. And literally, I laughed as soon as I saw Jaden Daniels make that throw. I'm like, how funny would it be if somebody catches it for a touchdown? And sure as shit, tip drill right into his hands.
I mean, I still don't even know what to say with this game, man. I mean, we came back from the dead. We didn't do anything the first half. They kick a
Three
field.
quarters,
They
three
kick a
quarters. It
couple
was
field
horrible.
goals. Yeah, we do nothing. Then Swift has a big run or two, and Caleb throws for about 100 yards or so in the second half, mainly most of the fourth quarter or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the most disappointing part is the defense is what let us down on those last two plays, not the last play.
No, it was the
And
last
the
leading up.
defense was actually great in the second half. We didn't give them anything until the last freaking play of the game, and we should have won the game because obviously that shouldn't have happened. But the play before, too, everyone wants to talk about the Hail Mary, and a lot of people have mentioned that play before as well. But you gave them 10 to 15 yards on that first down. Nobody was even near them. Um, you can't do that. You can't give them 13 seconds to throw the ball when there's only two on the clock. Um, those happen once a year ish, every couple of years. You see the Hail Mary and you win the game or you lose the game. And, it's a great high and a great low when, being on both sides of it. But, that was just, from a Bears fan, that was a huge game. You win that game. We've got Arizona and New England the next 2 weeks. If we beat Washington and we win these next two, you go to 7-2 in the division that we have. Now you only have to win another 2 games or so of the last 8. Now we're hoping 2 or 3 probably. You probably have to get to
More than
you probably
that.
have to get to 10. But now you hope to. I mean, Arizona's not necessarily a walk in the park. They could put some points
No.
up, and New England's been a little better of late. So now just a tough way to lose. What
Yeah,
else
I
to say?
mean, you have to question everything. You question Eberflus on that. You let basically Jaden Daniels hit Terry McLaurin on a sideline with less than a minute left in the game. Uh, it's unexcusable on the defensive scheme and stuff you draw up too. And then you had Tyreek Stevenson taunting the crowd. I don't know if you saw that video. Him,
Everyone's yeah.
I,
Oh,
I
we've
wish
seen it.
I wish I had the clip. I'd play it again for you guys. But it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing to watch. But maybe it's a humbling moment for some of you guys. That are just yapping in my ear about it. But it's like you guys still can't beat the Packers. You guys mediocre against Minnesota. Like some of you, I know you guys aren't listening, but some of you need to pipe it down a little bit. But anyway, I will say Caleb Williams did look pretty good in that fourth quarter. Made some really good throws to DJ Moore. Put him
Yeah,
in position to win 2 game
right.
winning drives. Bad play call to a what was it, a backup center?
Yeah, that's the other one too. I mean, Jesus
Not
Christ, what are we what
1985. It's not 1985 anymore. It's not
what are
the
we doing?
typical shuffle Bears here handing it
Yeah,
off. But I don't know. Chicago stays Chicago, I guess we could say.
I guess.
All right, moving into the Sunday night game, Dallas at San Francisco. If you want to feel better about yourself, at least you're not a Dallas fan. San Francisco absolutely throttled them in that first half, pretty much through 3 quarters, 30-24. Pretty much their only offense was Dak to CD Lamb, which was awesome for if any of you guys have CD Lamb in your fantasy leagues because he basically carried you that last week.
Yeah, San Fran. I mean, they're one of those teams that just week to week can look really good. Dallas is similar to, I keep saying that, when they can look really good and really bad. It's only 30-24 this week. Dallas came back, scored a few points late, but yeah, Dallas, outside of CeeDee Lamb, pretty much didn't have anything going. This was another game that, they're asking Dak to pretty much do everything. They had
Yeah.
nothing on the ground. I think they had 30 or 40 yards the entire game on the ground. So tough to win games when you get virtually nothing on the ground and you're asking your quarterback to throw it 40 to 50 times a game.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of that division, the NFC West is kind of crazy right now. Arizona, San Francisco, and Seattle, all 4-4. I mean, obviously, you still have to give it to San Francisco with all the amount of injuries that they've had to their stars in offense. Ayuk's gone for the season. Debo had pneumonia. He's been kind of sick playing on off. Kittle's banged up, and then CMC's been out. So, CMC's supposed to be back after their bye. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But it's a time for Seattle. And then once again, we just saw Stafford look really good with those targets, and the Rams are right there. They're 3-4, so they start rattling off wins. They're not going to be selling any of those guys, so we'll see.
Yeah, I could see the Rams making a late season run if they all stay healthy. They got a great run game with Kyron, Cup, and Nakua. I mean, come on.
Yep. All right. Touching on the boring Monday night game, New York at
Oh
Pittsburgh.
yeah.
Pittsburgh won 26-18. Didn't score through 3 quarters. It took Calvin Austin to take a punt return for a touchdown. I mean, Russell Wilson looks good. That's what you could say about that. And Pittsburgh's defense is still elite.
This is the only thing I have to say on this. This is Danny can't throw a touchdown to Malik Neighbors' dimes. That's who this is. That's what this game reminds me of. You know, I lost this week to Will. I mentioned that a few minutes ago. Um, I'm basically I mean, I lost by like 7 points. I'm like a touchdown away from winning this game. And Neighbors was like 7 of 13, right? I mean, he caught like 7 of his 13 passes. I didn't see the game. Knowing Danny Dimes, I'm sure he threw a few at his feet and, 10 feet over his head. But, I mean, throw the fucking ball to Malik Neighbors. God damn it, you son of a bitch. What are you fucking doing, you stupid idiot? You troglodyte homunculus.
I need an encyclopedia on that one. um, yeah, I mean, one bright spot for the Giants here, Tyrone
Tyrone
Tracy,
Tracy? Yeah.
good, 145.
Kid looks good.
Yeah, he was one of those late round pickups that a lot of people were high on, especially leading up to fantasy drafts. So it was a perfect landing spot for him. You know, he had a lot of juice in camp, so good for him. I know he's fighting a concussion right now too, so he'll probably be out this week. But yeah, so that was week 8 in review. You know, we're about halfway through the season.
I was gonna say we've pretty much done the first 8, and now we got the back 9, as they say.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of make or break here. I think it's funny though if you look at how bad some of these teams are. There's a bunch of teams that are like 2-6, like the Jets. And it's just funny because you think going and being a Jets fan too. It's like, oh yeah, well you have a chance at the Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers and everything, and now you're like, oh, who can I draft in a top 3?
I'm just waiting for. I don't know if it's going to be this year. It's not going to be this year. You were high on that Jordan Travis kid. When
Yeah,
are they gonna? I forget who their backup is. Do they have? They don't have
Tyrod Taylor.
Bridgewater. Oh,
Ty-
Tyrod Taylor. That's who it was.
yeah,
So they've got Tyrod as the backup. Are they going to move on from Rodgers? I mean, they're paying him a ton of money. I mean, I'm sure you're not going to move on, but he's not. They're not doing anything. When are we going to see my boy Jordan Travis go in there? A couple of years. That's what I'm asking for.
I would see, depending on how this year finishes, if they end up drafting a QB in the top whatever, just keeps getting worse and worse, and they end up like not winning a streak of games, and they are picking in the top. I mean, I could see them going after Cam Ward out of Miami. He's had an elite season, Heisman Trophy candidate for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a guy that they look at unless he goes 1-1, but you never know. It depends on what Carolina does because they're terrible. You have so many bad teams. You can't even say like, you can't even do anything with it because of how good. But what I think leading into my point here instead of babbling is that Jordan Travis is at least a year away from being even in the conversation, and it's going to be a QB battle at that point. If Rodgers says, "Hey, I'm done after the season," which I don't think that's the case. I think he's just really, really hurt, and the coaching is just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I know Ben Johnson from Detroit, their offensive coordinator, is linked to the Bears. He wanted to go there last year. They kept with the Eberflus. I think we all know the writing on the wall. Regardless if they make the playoffs, Flus is gone. Too many mistakes. You need an offensive mind to help Caleb develop further. You go hopefully get Robert Saleh to coach your defense. You try to poach him away. Giving you guys a lot of false hope here, but that's what the Bears should do.
That could be a sexy move.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really want him, Ben Johnson, that is, for the Jets to see what he can do, bringing an offensive mind in here that's not Adam Gase. I mean, we're probably talking another rebuild, though. Rodgers, he's old. He's older now. That's it.
It's an old man.
And Jordan Travis, he's coming off of that ACL, so we won't see him at all this year. And
right,
even as a backup, I mean, maybe next year if he wins a battle, but I think you hope for the best.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's a quick turnaround. You bring in a new coach and then see what you got with Rodgers next year if he decides to come back, and then you still have Adams too. So Adams, GW, and kind of hope you re-sign some of these defensive players.
We'll see, right? Those JETS, Jets.
Just end the suffering. All right. Any closing statements?
Game 5 tonight. Garrett Cole. Let's send it
Yep.
back to LA, my man.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. Like to see, you know, the Dodgers win at home. So
I just want to go Game 7. I want to breathe some more life into this series. I mean, we got to win tonight, Garrett. We got to do our thing, but
yeah,
I want this going 7.
absolutely. So it would be good for TV at least. So we'll close it out there.